Welcome to tonight's presentation of Why Can't We Be Friends? Being Muslim, Ask the Source. Why Can't We Be Friends is in partnership with Dell Medical's community-driven initiatives. And we are going to get started here tonight by everyone kind of saying who they are and letting us know what your name is, and then we will get started with the questions. It's a pretty laid back format, very conversational. So I'll start. My name is Kelly McGinty, and I am here because I am a co-producer of Why Can't We Be Friends? And I do the hosting for the events as of right now. We're always looking for good help, you guys. So I will go ahead and pass it to who would like to introduce themselves first. Not everyone at the same time. Okay, go ahead.
Nusa Al-Siraj. I'm from Canada, and I'm in the process of immigrating to Texas.
Yes.
So, and my family is from Iraq, and they are all still in Canada. But I grew up with them and only left a couple of years ago.
Great.
I'll go. Can you hear me?
Huh?
Okay. My name is Sean. I am from the United States. I am a mother of two. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm happy to be with you all today, this evening.
Great.
I can go next, I guess. My name is Güner Arslan. I'm actually in Austin, Texas, originally from Turkey.
I can go next. I am Mualla. I am Mualla. That's all. I've been living in Texas over 10 years. I'm originally from Turkey. I am 34 years old. I am a teacher. I have two kids, and I'm married.
Great. Thanks, everybody. And I thank you all again for taking some time out of your evening to be with us tonight. So the way this all works, for those of you who are new or those of you who are back again, is that when you register to come in, there's an opportunity for people to submit questions. Those questions can also be voted on, and that will push them up to the top to be asked. We go for about an hour, sometimes a little bit more than that. And I just read through the questions that have been submitted, and then whoever would like to answer them can go ahead and do that. Sometimes one person answers and that's it. Sometimes everyone would like an opportunity to answer, and that's okay too. So let's see, I go back and forth into the Slido app. So I'm going to start with the very first question, which is, oh, it just changed. People are voting. Do you feel your children are treated respectfully at the schools they attend? So that's for people who have children. Or if you went to school here, you could also answer that question. Do you feel your children are treated respectfully at the schools they attend?
I'll speak.
Okay.
As for my son, he was treated pretty decently. No one really bothered him a whole lot. It may have helped that he did well in school anyway. We were in Georgia when he was younger. He's been to both Islamic schools and public schools. He's had a pretty good time, either way, but it does help that if you have an involved parent, that helps. And as for my daughter, she's currently at a school that, again, I'm always involved in, and her school is very open, and they have Eids off because we're in New York, and so they get that time off now. So they've done pretty well.
Okay. Does anybody else want to answer that particular question?
I believe my kids being treated fairly. I never feel in a way that they were discriminated or anything. So, but here is another thing. Kids are, they tend to hide things. When I see something is not usual, I always prefer to talk to the teacher right away to clarify any misunderstandings. So overall, I didn't have any problem.
I don't have kids, but when I was a kid in the 80s in Canada, it was kind of hard to teach the teachers that when it's Ramadan and we fast, like, no, we're not torturing the kids by not letting them eat. It's it's a religious thing, and on Eid they don't always want to give you the day off, and we were the first ones there, so we had to kind of teach them. But now I think it's it's 2021 now. I think a lot of people are a lot more aware of different religions and different cultures. So I think a lot of things have improved for sure.
Great. All right. So the next question, this one's a little bit more in depth, and it says, what does the Quran say about people of other religions? And that one had 3 votes. So what does the Quran say about people of other religions?
So I'll speak about that mainly because I actually come from Christianity. I grew up in the church. I sang in 3 choirs. I'm still very close to my Christian family as far as like the people who I went to church with, grew up with. The Quran, as far as Christianity is concerned, they were Christian prophets are our prophets. Their names may be translated or sound like different figures, but they're the same people. So there's a lot of like Noah in English is Nuh, in Arabic. Jonah and Eunice are the same people. Ibrahim and Abraham, same people. Peace be upon them all. So there isn't a whole lot of difference. Now, most Muslims are not walking reciters of Quran. There are people who are able to do that, and they can recite, and that's an aspiration one day for me, but most of us aren't. So if you ask us, what does the Quran say about people of other faiths, you might get a bunch of different answers, and you may get some things that aren't completely 100% accurate, but there are people who can, tell you a direct verse. But all in all, we worship one God, right? We worship the creator of Adam and the creator of Abraham. And that's about as, plain as I can make it. And I'll yield.
Can I take a step at that? So a few concepts while I was listening to Sean that popped into my mind. One is the concept of people of the book. This is a very repeated theme. The people of the book are mostly Christians and Jews, because they have their respective books, holy books. Islam looks at the world this way. God created the human being Adam. He also was the first prophet, and by prophet I mean the messenger, God's representation on earth, if you will, the perfect human being that would represent God on earth, and kind of teaches religion. And then we know the story of his sons. Immediately the next generation went astray. People are forgetting the message generally, and then God sends another messenger to bring them back to the straight path. And then people go astray again. He sends another messenger, and this repeats throughout history. So the way we look at it is all the prophets from Adam to Muhammad, peace be upon them, that includes Jesus, Moses, Abraham, and all the other biblical figures. We have them, as Sean mentioned, in the Holy Book. And so all these people are actually following the same religion. They are just stopped at a previous prophet, if you will. That's kind of the view. There is one more verse that I'm gonna kind of translate from memory, but this is kind of an exchange between Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he started preaching Islam and believe in one God in Arabia, where the predominant religion was believing in many gods. And this one verse would say something like this: I won't believe in your religion, in a polytheistic religion, and you won't believe in my religion. Your religion is for you, and my religion is for me. So it's kind of, well, I respect you with your religion, and please do respect me with my religion, and we can get along. And finally, one more thing. There is a verse about diversity in the Quran, which says, God says basically, I created you in with different languages and different colors, so that you might know each other. So, and there, the message I'm getting from there is that diversity of language, of ethnicity, of color, of really anything is intentional. It's by design, and we're supposed to make use of that and get to know each other and learn about each other's cultures and languages and so forth.
Okay, so the next question is, were you born into your Muslim faith, or have you converted, or what is your current standing?
I was definitely born into it, and it went through a few different phases. My parents had their concept of Islam from when they were, young, and they left Iraq. And then after about 10 years in Canada, more people started coming, and it started to get a bit updated, and they started noticing, oh, you're still eating meat that isn't halal meat, or you're still doing this, this, and this. And my mom didn't used to cover her hair, and then she started covering her hair. So there was a bit of an evolution. I always felt like I had a choice, so that's kind of unique. And I have dogs, but my family is very not into dogs. They're considered like a dirty animal to have in the house, which I'm not going to disagree with. They are kind of dirty. And so there are some things that are, I feel like, evolving and changing as time goes on. But to answer the question, I personally was born into it and have been trying to find ways to compromise and stay in good terms with my family while still participating in this culture that we live in.
It's similar for me too. I was born into Islam, but I always felt that I had a choice because my family, they are Muslim, but they are not practicing as much of Islam. So, like for example, I'm the first one covered in my family. So my mom, my sister, they're not covered, but they are respectful. So they're respectful for my choices. At the beginning, it was difficult for them because I was the very first one who started to covering. Of course, it's not the uh, whole point, but yes, like Noza said, yes, I had a choice, and I'm very happy that I always have a choice in this perspective.
And I want to agree with you. When my mom covered her hair for the first time, I think I was 14 already, and I had an older brother who was almost 20, and it was interesting to see how it was received by her workplace, by the community, and by my dad and my brother. They were like, oh my gosh, you're covering your hair. But I really always respected it, because she was doing it from her own beliefs and her own, um, and my mom's name is Huda, actually, which means the right path. So she always felt like she had to choose the right path, and I think that's kind of nice. So that's nice to hear that you're the first one, Mu'alla.
I'll speak next. So like I spoke about before, I grew up in the church. Becoming Muslim was not a choice of being less like Christians, but actually more like the people in the Bible. Like I grew up with like the Precious Moments Bible. So like I used to read it every night. I still have it. I used to read it all the time. And so my choice was I had already taken Arabic in public school. And so I figured, not while I was in school did I decide I was going to be Muslim. As a matter of fact, I had Muslim friends at the school, and my friends would have long sleeves, and I'd be like, "Girl, I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do that." We're down in the Georgia heat, and I'm like, couldn't be me. But later on, when I got into college and stuff, I learned more about Islam, and I didn't really see anything that was necessarily contradictory to me. My style was, I was always a different person, so I was wrapping my hair just because I thought it was cute. And everybody thought it was too. So that wasn't a big deal for me. That wasn't a big change for me, which in our society at that time probably would have been for a lot of people. But for me, it was just like, I'm being different. But as far as the faith aspect is concerned, I figured, I can read Arabic. So, if there's something in here that I don't like, I can just say, okay, I'm going back. It wasn't really like a super duper thing. So coming up, I did have an uncle who was a devout Muslim, and of course, growing up in the Black neighborhood, about Black history, about Malcolm X, about all of that. You may not have a whole lot of information, but there certainly isn't as big of a stigma as it may be in other communities regarding converting, because it just wasn't a big deal. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was still a big deal, but it wasn't that big of a deal for me.
I guess I can go next. I was born into a Muslim family as well, and similar to Mualla, my parents are also not very observant, although my mother later in her life started praying the daily prayers and covering her hair, but that wasn't the case when they raised us. So not sure what else I can say.
It's
I
fine.
guess it's very common.
So somebody had mentioned halal, and that's one of the questions, and it said, should everyone assume that people of this faith are always eating halal? And then also, if you could just say briefly like what halal is for maybe people who don't know what that is.
I'm going to go ahead and answer that because as a person who had to find halal food, I'm just going to say, please assume that halal is the food that we need to eat. And it's really not even food, it's meat. And it's only certain meat. So like, it's not fish, it's red meat, it's lamb. Of course, we don't eat pork. So it's really kind of like only those two categories as far as I can, and chicken, I'm sorry. It's really only those things. And yeah, poultry, but it's not, I would ask that everyone assumes that is what they need, or just go vegetarian, which is also halal. If you just give us a platter of vegetables, that's completely halal as far as that's concerned. And I'll pass it on to the next.
That's interesting how you talked about the difficulty of finding it. Is that an issue here in Central Texas?
Well, it depends on what you mean by that. I don't think we have, it's not that difficult to find halal meat. There are enough stores that sell it. But when you go to restaurants, you cannot find halal meat in most restaurants, and finding a dish that is halal is relatively hard. Let me just back up here. Halal just means permissible and applies to really everything in life. So an action can be halal or not, and something that you eat can be halal or not. But I guess the more popular use is it's used similar to kosher meat, right? Or kosher food. In that sense, just means anything that's permissible to eat, you can eat or drink. For example, Muslims don't eat alcohol, so any dish that has alcohol in it becomes automatically not halal. Pork is not permissible. Any meat that is not slaughtered with special prayers is not permissible. So we can eat beef, but it has to be slaughtered in a special way. So that's the difference. And again, depends on how sensitive you are. I mean, you can go and buy, for example, some marshmallows, which are made of, it's a byproduct of meat, basically, right? So it has gelatin in it, which is the byproduct of meat, let's put it that way. So we don't eat that, we cannot eat that. It's not halal. There are halal marshmallows as well. So, the way I understood the question was, does everybody observe it? And always, no, it doesn't. I mean, you will find, as with every religion, you will find people who are very observant for as much as they can on every rule there is. And on the other spectrum, there will be Muslims who call themselves Muslims, but don't practice even the most basic tenets of it. And they're all Muslims. But I like Sean's answer about, if you invite me to dinner, please assume that I will need halal meat. At least ask if there are special dietary restrictions.
That's good to know.
Yes, and if you want me to bring the ribs, I will buy the ribs. I will bring them, and you can cook them. I don't have any problem with that.
I was just gonna say, of course, it never hurts to ask if you have and I like this format because we're asking questions that you might not feel comfortable to ask, but I think it's just wonderful to be considerate of um, someone's dietary and religious
Observances, yes.
differences. Yeah.
I guess in this day and age, we need to ask even if they're not Muslim, right? Everybody has allergies and restrictions. So I guess should be something, a common courtesy at this point.
Mhm. Like
And
a general question, what do I need to know about your diet?
Mhm.
What do I need to
Yeah.
know about what you eat
Exactly.
or don't eat?
And at the end, we become great cooks because we can't find many halal outside in restaurants. Like Sean said, I mean, yes, we find beef or any kind of meat halal, then bring it home, cook it, and yeah, at the end, you became really good cook.
So what you're saying is we need to get invited to y'all's house for dinner.
Yes, right.
We actually prefer that. That way we can control the food.
Yeah, I know Sean's making ribs, so. Okay. I saw a question on here, and some of these I'm going to go ahead and ask them, and if they're not like this one, so it says, what is the difference between Shia and Sunni, and which are you? And I am thinking that maybe this is more of almost like a regional question. Is Shia and Sunni everywhere, or is that specific to one country? Well, how does that work? That was one of the
Everyone
questions.
unmuted themselves. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm gonna say I'm a Sunni Muslim. However, I just don't know like the serious differences other than I really don't I really don't know the big differences. I guess if you're a minority in the country, you kind of don't really care. I know that there are masjids and places where people, Sunni Muslims will go, but I also run into Shia Muslims at the masjid. So I don't know if they make serious distinctions, but I think somebody else would be better to explain it.
I can explain it. My family is Shia, and I just Googled quickly. Only 15% of all Muslims are Shia. So it's a very, and I don't know anything about Turkey. So you two will have to tell me about the regional differences there. But I know that in a lot of places there are both Shia and Sunni, but there is like a percentage that's smaller. And from what I understand, the big difference is in who they decided to follow after the death of the Prophet Muhammad. So when the Prophet died, some people believe he appointed one person, and others believe he appointed another person. And other than that, there's very small differences in how things are practiced. I this is maybe a little off color, but like when I talk with other people who are raised by Shia, it's like very locked down. There's a lot of grieving and mourning. We spend a lot of the lunar calendar mourning, and there, and that I think it's really beautiful in a lot of ways. And it's also I don't know exactly what the big differences are, but I do know that it's we observe a whole month of mourning for sure during every year, and a mourning for the Holy Family and our beliefs about how they were treated and that kind of thing. But as far as and like when we pray, there has to be a. I don't know if everyone does that. They put a turban. No one does that. It's a So, my mom's best friend was from Egypt and she was Sunni. And I know we would notice when we went to her house, oh, she does things just a little differently, but it never was so different that we can't all get along, kind of thing. And I would love to hear about Turkey and.
Yeah. Turkey is about the same distribution, maybe 10-15% Shia, more precisely Alawite, which is a kind of subsect of Shia, and majority 85%, 90% is Sunni, and so am I. As you described, the split became after the Prophet died, and disagreement was over who's gonna lead this new Muslim state. And the disagreement, one group said Ali, who was the cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet, should be leading because he's the closest male relative. And the other side, no, the Prophet didn't indicate that his family should continue to lead, so we should elect somebody from amongst ourselves, and that kind of become the split there. And over the years, that split kind of grew theologically as well. Although everybody's using the same Quran, the Holy Book is exactly the same. We pray pretty similar ways. There are slight differences, but there are slight differences even within Sunni schools in that regard. We don't use that. I mean, I think Shia has the requirement that when you go to prostration, your forehead has to be on a natural material, so you cannot pray on a carpet, which most Muslims would pray on. So what they do, I found that really, I found that out when I went to a Shia mosque here. I walked into Shia mosque for the first time. We don't really have Shia mosques in Turkey, and everybody walking in picks up this little stone. And I wasn't sure what that was, and later I figured they put it right where they're prostrate, so that their forehead ends up on that stone, because it has to be a natural thing. We didn't have that concept. I learned it here.
Turba.
What is it called?
It's called the turba.
Turba.
And
Nice.
I didn't know people don't pray without it.
Exactly. So the main difference though today, theologically, I would say is this. Shia have the concept of imam and the kind of a lineage of imams, date all the way from Prophet Muhammad and his sons and his grandsons, which is why Shia are mourning, because they were killed. The grandsons were killed in a gruesome way. And that's what, and then their children, and there's kind of this lineage of imams, which are considered, I think, and correct me if I'm saying anything wrong here, infallible. So very similar to the Catholic Pope, if you will. There's kind of that tradition. Although the Pope is kind of somehow elected, and there is no real lineage. In this case, there is a lineage. So people are tracing them back all the way to the Prophet Muhammad. In Sunni Islam, we don't have that concept. We don't believe in that lineage of imams. And we have leaders, we have scholars, but no concept of a person who is infallible at this point. The last person that was infallible was the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So that's kind of what I understand is the main difference at this point. And then again, there are small differences here and there in the way we pray and in the way we fast and everything, but it's still the same. You can still pray next to a person, or when somebody prays, you can tell they're praying. It's the same motions. It's the same verses of the Quran. It's the same exact Quran. Very similar.
Okay. So the next question is it reasonable to ask a Muslim if I can attend services at their mosque? And if I did get to go, would I also have to bow down on a carpet? That was what the question was.
I mean, I love to hear people when they come ask me, hey, can we come to your mosque, or can we observe your praying. I haven't met any Muslim that would be offended by that. And no, if you come to a mosque, most mosques at least that I've been, nobody would make you pray or would even think you would pray. Somebody might ask if you want to join, just out of
Courtesy.
politeness. But
Have
no,
to
you
take
don't.
off your shoes.
Yes,
take off your
they will
shoes.
ask you to take off your shoes when you enter the mosque. And if for women, maybe again out of courtesy, if you bring something that you can cover your head with, that would be a nice gesture. But other than that, please try to go to mosques and see what we're doing there.
So I have a question. Is it the same? Is it a Sunday thing or it's not?
No,
You can go to mosque.
It's well, the mosque is always open, and there are 5 daily prayers. We pray 5 times a day, and you will find some people praying at those prescribed times. But our main day of prayer, the equivalent of Sunday for Christians, or the Saturday for Jews, is Friday for Muslims.
Huh.
So I guess we took the next available day. Sunday and Saturday was taken.
That's funny.
Yeah, Friday prayer, is it usually in the afternoon? Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's in place of the noon prayer. So the noon prayer is just after noon generally. Yeah.
Yes, and they call it Juma prayer, which is Friday prayer. They call it Juma.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So on Friday afternoons, if you want to go to the really big service and see the equivalent of a Sunday service in Islam, you will need to go to a Juma prayer on a Friday. And here in Austin, we have many mosques, and most mosques have actually more than one. So it's like many Christian churches have more than one Sunday service, similar, because they cannot fit everybody at once into the mosque. So like the mosque, Brushy Creek that I go to, they have actually 3 different times for the Friday prayer. The earliest starts at 12:30, the next one at 1:30, and the next one at 2:30.
That's good to know. So the next question was, is it important for people of the Muslim faith to marry within their faith?
I'm going to jump right into that one. I think the answer is yes, and that is the biggest source of disagreement between myself and my family. That is all I have to say about that. You can all take it from there.
I'll say yes. I'll say yes, but it's not necessarily like a discriminatory reason. It's kind of like, well, I don't eat bacon, so you can't kiss me with those, if you ate bacon, because that's not going to work. And we like to go to service, but are we going on Friday and Sunday or Saturday? I mean, so it's more of, it's like there are fine people who are of other faiths, wonderful, excellent human beings, just all over the place. But when it comes to just the specificity of Islam, that is what makes certain things difficult. It's not because anybody is necessarily like better in certain ways. It's just that there's so much to being a Muslim that it just helps that you are married to another Muslim. It's just helpful.
Kind of like being a vegan, I guess. It really helps.
Yeah. Right. Or like fasting, like you're fasting for a whole month, but this person doesn't have to. And that's fine, because we exist in a world where there are all kinds of reasons why you'd be around people who aren't also fasting. in majority Muslim countries, you're going to be surrounded by people who aren't fasting for various reasons. But you know, it's just that being on the being on that same accord, because Islam is not like, it's not for many of us, it's not just, you know, one thing or a celebration, or you know, it's more wrapped and folded into your daily life. And it is easier when you are married to another Muslim. However, it's not helpful if you're married to somebody and they're under the gun and feeling like they need to become Muslim. They need to be Muslim because that's what they want to do, whether it's man or a woman. They do not need to be forced, not forced, but you know, like coaxed into wearing scarves and coaxed into all that. It just needs to come from within. They need to be fine with it, because that also brings about resentment and, you know, lack of understanding, and you know, people don't understand why. It's much better for a person to be with someone who is sincerely happy, you know, as a Muslim, and if that's what they choose to do. And I'm not knocking anybody who's Muslim who's married to another a person of another faith. I'm just saying that it tends to be easier. That's all.
So the next question is, how do you feel about Muslim people being portrayed as terrorists in a lot of TV and movie media?
I can speak for the next 2.5 hours about that.
My eyes bulged out of my head. I think we can talk till 9 o'clock about this.
Right? Is there maybe a condensed, not 2.5 hour?
I mean, the question is how you feel. I feel sometimes angry that people do that. I feel sad. I feel disappointed in the fact that we Muslims couldn't communicate what we believe in to the rest of the population yet. I feel I failed in reaching out to as many people, and I feel frustrated about Muslims who have been here for 50 years or generations and have not reached out as much to show people that we are just like you. I mean, our faith is not much different. Again, we believe Islam is the continuation of Christianity and Judaism. It's just the next iteration of that same belief. And we have the same values. And terrorism could be, I mean, is as far as you can get from central tenets of Islam, which again, there is a verse that says killing one person unjustly is like killing all of humanity. And Muslim, I like this. This is right after September 11th, 2000. What was it? Gülen, Fethullah Gülen, who is a scholar here and a Turkish scholar living here in the US. Very next day, he had a advertisement in one of those national papers where he condemned the attacks and then said something like a terrorist cannot be a Muslim and a true Muslim cannot be a terrorist. It's just saying like a round triangle. I mean, a Muslim terrorist makes as much sense as a round triangle makes sense.
The word Islam means peace.
Exactly.
I think that is the easiest way to put it. It's a peaceful religion, and people who try to terrorize other people are they're just not living by the principles of Islam.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll speak and say that the portrayal is angering for there's so many levels to why the portrayal is upsetting. One is because that is a very lazy approach to addressing a huge population of the Earth's humans. Many of the people who make these accusations are people who are not necessarily concerned with whether or not anyone commits terror against any other person, because they have not busied themselves with seeing how terror affects other communities in other ways. So you can't just decide that this community is the one that commits terror against human beings on this planet, because that is not true. And we know that's not true. But more importantly, there is such diversity and so many benefits that we have gotten from so many different populations, and that includes the Muslim population. So many doctors, so many astronomers, so many mathematicians and scientists, so much stuff. Like, this is just lazy. To me, it's lazy. And it's also hypocritical in the United States, because the truth of the matter is that a lot of the slaves that were brought here have been estimated as much as 20% being taken from Muslim countries, and as many as 20%. And that is a significant, I'm not saying it's anywhere between something like 7 and 20%. It's an estimate because, of course, we were not considered human beings. And so blah, 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 blah. When you go and you look at the roles and you look at the people, but as many as 20% of this country's people who helped build this country were Muslim. They may have been from Africa, but they were Muslim. And they contributed. And there were no, there was nothing to say then about our presence then. So we have to think deeply. We can't be lazy. Human beings are in general good, no matter what label that you put and wave over them. And anybody who wants to demonize a group of people based upon their regional, like where they come from, or their race, or just really lazy and unscientific and like not critically uncritical reasons, it's in bad faith anyway. So those accusations are in bad faith. And it's almost like, I almost don't want to prove anything to you. I almost don't think that you deserve an explanation for, from Muslims regarding, all kinds of different terrorism, because be consistent and ask everybody who commits terroristic acts, what their deal is. Don't just focus on one group of people. Demand humanity from everyone. Be consistent.
I want to be bossy here and ask Mala to speak, because I saw her unmute herself a few times. So I'm being bossy and asking someone else to jump in. I would love to hear what you have to say. And Sean, thank you for that. I love the just calling it lazy, calling it what it is. It's a function of white supremacy, is what I really believe. You don't have to lump everyone into a category. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
There is a watch calling call to prayer right next to me. So let me stop that first before I answer.
Okay.
Actually, it's too bad we couldn't hear that. It's actually pretty, I haven't heard it in a while.
Sorry. Yes, I agree with you all. Like in a personal level, when I watch something in the news that against Muslims, I don't feel safe to go out because I'm covered. I'm right away recognized I'm a Muslim. And that fear, it's difficult to handle. In a personal level, when I watch something on Netflix that like there are scenes like guns with people with like they are praying, that it's horrific, and unfortunately, it's really affecting people's daily life like me. Like I said, I sometimes don't feel safe in places if I'm gonna be um, discriminated. But happily, Texas is a great place. I didn't have much problem here. There were times, of course, there are times when you feel the look on you. Of course, there are times, but overall, people are friendly. They are so nice to me. There are people who calling, "Oh, your scarf is so pretty." So just simple things makes my day easier and makes my day, like in a Walmart or Target, people comes and, "Oh, I love your scarf," then I'm so happy. I feel safe that people likes me instead of like who this person is coming from. Yeah, those are my personal level suggestions to the people who are listening us tonight. um, just talk to us. We are friendly, and we want to talk to you. I personally like to interact with people from different backgrounds. I am a member of Daughters of Shalom Salam, and I am a member of Daughters of Abraham. We get together every month. We talked about our similarities, differences, find a common ground. So, yeah, just whenever you see me, whenever you see a Muslim, just simple words like "you're beautiful," "I like your scarf," or anything. Ask, and we are happy to answer.
Um, being with my mom in different environments, I can totally just back that up. Even though I'm not the one wearing my scarf, but I'm so protective of my mother. When I see angry hillbillies, no offense to any hillbillies out there, respect, but there are times when there's a store in Canada called Canadian Tire, and it's kind of like Home Depot, but it's called Canadian Tire, and everyone that goes in there is usually wearing camo and like really angry. And it's so hard it's sometimes it's more than just the look. It's aggression. It's not wanting to serve my mother. It's people looking like they're going to come over and rip her headscarf off. Um, and if I'm with her, I get all. I'm like 5 feet tall. You know, I'm not very big, but I get so defensive for her, and she has managed to find a way to to block it all out. And I think you have to be incredibly strong in this kind of society to stand out, visibly stand out. And I can't say that, maybe the reason I never wore a scarf is because I wanted to blend in and feel more safe. I can't say, I have no idea. But I know that you have to be extremely strong to be able to do that. And whenever we've gone to places and people will come up and I'm like, what are they about to say to her? And they say, oh, I love your scarf, or tell me about anything. It's so beautiful to see humanity opening up to each other. And I've even had experiences where I'm not wearing a headscarf, I'm wearing like one of those, like the checkered scarf, because it's in Canada, it gets very cold, and the kind the men usually wrap their head in, and I just wear it like a scarf. I've had experiences where someone, in the Walmart turns down the same kind of aisle as me, and they'll stop in their tracks and go, oh, and turn around and run away. And it makes you feel horrible. It makes you feel like less of a human being. And as a musician, as my fake name Winona Wild, I part of what I do is I go out there pretending to be, um, you know, a country singer, and then I show up. I'm like, guess what? I'm an Arab, and now you have to listen to my stories about how to not treat us poorly. So thanks for coming to listen to country music. And um, anyways, it's a good
Lisa,
question.
you should put a link in the chat to your
If
to
I
your
type,
music.
if it says type message here, does everyone see it?
I think so. If you hit chat,
Yeah.
you should put a link there to your music.
Yeah, I just finally updated it all. I put it there, and I, I don't know. It's hard to take that role. It's hard to be up on a stage and feel like someone might target me or be discriminatory. But for the most part, I think I said this in the last panel. For the most part, people get so distracted by country music that they forget. So, but anyway,
So kind of on that same note, there was a question that was, what is the purpose behind the covering of the hair?
I'll
It's
take that. Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
You can both answer it.
Yeah, you go ahead, Nusa. You were addressed first. I'm sorry.
No problem. Yes, it's in the Quran. It's basically that's why we cover, because God wants us to cover. You can go ahead, Sean.
Okay, so I thought very, very deeply about this, and I actually even made like a comedic thing about this, and that is that they never, ever make any fuss about how covered these men are. These men are wearing pants and then a thobe, which is like the long thing over that. Sometimes they have shirts on underneath that too. Then they're wearing like this big brown thing over that. Then they're wearing a kufi underneath that. Then they're wearing a scarf on top of that. Like, don't worry about what I'm wearing. Worry about whether he dies of heat stroke or not me, because I'm going to be fine. The guys are the ones that are just really covered up, but nobody pays attention to it. They just pay attention to the women being covered up. And I'm not addressing anyone in the room with that question, because I appreciate that. I appreciate the question. I'm addressing the greater, just greater society when they kind of are worried about women covering. As far as why, it's because, you know, that's what our faith says. Is my phone about to die? Okay. Yeah, that's what the Quran tells us to do. However, you know, it's really not a big deal. If you look, women and men cover their hair for a really long time. Only recently have we stopped. I mean, we even used to cover our hair with hats. And when people would go to church, they would have, you know, like a little thing to wear when they went to church. So head coverings are not something that's like so foreign that Islam just came in and started asking for people to cover their hair. It's been kind of a normal thing, you know, a regular thing until, you know, recently.
Another question was, do you pray 5 times a day, and how is that working out for you in this modern day society?
I can take that one. I do pray 5 times a day, and it works perfectly in this modern society because life is so hectic. I'm an electrical engineer, but I mean, you get up in the morning, before doing anything else, you deliver a prayer, and then just after noon, I'm generally in the office, obviously not in the past year, but when I'm in the office, It's basically, as the alarm went off, pretty much every Muslim who prays has a little app that tells the prayer times, and yeah, in the middle of the day it goes off, and you know it's time to pray. And these days, these prayer times are not fixed. I mean, yes, if you want to go to the mosque, you have to be at the time there so that you can pray with everybody else. But that's not required. It's really recommended, but it's not required. And then you have basically time until the next call to prayer, to your prayer anytime. And I find that refreshing. You just stop everything, the hectic life, meeting after meeting, talking to that person, this person. I just close my office door. Let's focus on what's really important. Let's make that connection to God. And then you stand in front of God and basically have that personal communion with God, even if it's just for 5 minutes. And it can be as short as 5 minutes. It doesn't take much time either. I mean, you can enlong it as long as you want, but the mandatory part is really just 5 minutes. And then you're done. You basically have done your obligation. And then you can go back to the hectic life until the next alarm goes off. Then you can stop and focus again. I think it helps you kind of break that cycle of, otherwise you're always in that grinding machine and never stop. And at night, just before going to bed, you do your final prayer of the day. And again, that's actually a recommended practice now, some sort of meditation before going to bed. It just relaxes you, and then you're ready to go to sleep. So I don't see any problem with the hectic life.
I agree with you, Gunnar, and it reminds me of the smartwatches, like how it tells you like stand up or like take a deep breath or such a thing. So those alarms or the clocks that we have at home reminds us it's time to pray, but even though we know what time we pray, so it's just a reminder. So just like Gunnar said, it's a time where you just relax, and it's 5 times a day, yes, but like in the morning and in right now, especially right now, it's like in the afternoon, and you can pray. I mean, as a working mom, I'm praying in the morning before I leave. Then I'm also praying when I come back from work. So the time is working in this way. Yeah, it's not a big problem. It's actually relaxing and really helpful.
Yeah, and I would just add that just as people make time, you know, the prayer doesn't take like a whole lot of time. I think that people might think that it's like a whole service you have to pray, but it doesn't take that long to pray. So the amount of time that it takes for you to sit and meditate and have a session in that way, that's about how long it takes to pray, especially, you know, midday prayers. So it's not really that bad, and you're home for, well, most people are home for at least 2 or 3 of their prayers. So they're only out, you know, and having to, you can pray sitting, you can pray. There are all kinds of expiations and things that you can do in order to pray. You don't have to set up shop in the middle of your workplace if that's not something that is safe for you to do or convenient for you to do. You can make them up when you get home. And again, it doesn't take that long to do it. People pray. I pray more than that just commuting.
That's probably a good time to pray.
Yeah.
When we were kids, we would do the morning and the 2 afternoon ones all at once, and then the 2 evening ones at once. So we only ever actually really did it twice a day, but we did 5 different. I don't know if that's normal, but that's how I was taught to do it because we never got up in time ever.
The
So,
morning prayer is a little early. It's pre-dawn, just after dawn. So
there's a morning prayer that's pre/just after dawn.
no. So the morning prayer is after dawn, before the sun rises. So that time between where it's kind of you start seeing the light, but you don't see the sun yet. The noon prayer is right after the sun passes the zenith point and up to, this is very scientific now, and up to the time when object's shadow is twice the length of itself. So that's kind of how they kept track of that time. And that's also the beginning of the time for the afternoon prayer until the sun sets. At the sunset until it gets completely dark, that's the time for the evening prayer, which is the time right now. So once we are done, I'm gonna go and deliver that prayer. And then once it gets completely dark until dawn next morning, it's anytime during that time you can pray the night prayers. So that's kind of 5 prayers.
So we have a lot of interest in this. So we have several questions. However, Why Can't We Be Friends has already committed itself to even sometimes have these conversations more than once. So I'm going to ask you a final question. We'll have the remainder of the questions kind of reserved for when this topic is discussed again, which it eventually will be. And so the last question I have for you guys tonight is, what is your favorite thing about being Muslim? And you can tie that in with what thoughts would you like to leave people with in terms of this?
Okay, I'll say what mine is. My favorite thing about being Muslim has got to be all of the different people that I have gotten a chance to sit and pray with, to sit and eat with, to fast with, to learn with. You know, I went around just after September 11th. It was a very hectic time for all of us. And I was a new mom, and my son was like 1 or 2 years old. And I was in Miami at the time. And I wasn't so afraid in Miami because there were so many people who, some of them joked that they looked Arab too. They're like, I'm scared too. I look like an Arab myself. But, you know, our mosque was getting threats, and that was very hectic, but nothing ever really came of it. It was just, you know, some copycat people. And the community consisted of people from African American people, people from the Caribbean, people from Indonesia and Malaysia, people from Syria and Pakistan and Turkey and everywhere. And it was, when it was time to, you know, for Ramadan, and we're making dinner and people are bringing dinner, it's like this whole international situation. And it was really, really amazing. It was heartening. People from Panama, people from everywhere, you know, getting together and sitting and praying and fellowshipping. And, you know, that's probably my favorite thing.
Well, let me go next. As I said, I'm an engineer. I like things to make sense and logical. Religion is generally not considered logical, or have to make sense. But for me, Islam does make sense. Obviously, there is a part of belief. I cannot prove anything, but once you believe, everything is self-consistent within itself. So once you believe that there is a God, once you believe that there are angels, once you believe that there are prophets who God sent to convey His message to us, and once you believe there are holy books that God again sent us to teach us the straight path. Once you accept those, then it guides you. It gives you a way of life that you know if you follow that, you will be successful in this life and in the hereafter, which we believe in. And that for me is what really is the main part. It gives me purpose. Otherwise, I cannot imagine myself. I just cannot grasp the concept where you don't believe in God and everything doesn't make sense and everything is just random and we just happen to be here by chance, and I don't know what I would do with that. Let's put it that way. And this just gives me purpose and puts everything in perspective. And again, everything has a reasonable answer that satisfies my mind as well as my heart. That would be my perspective.
For me, being a Muslim, I just want to answer this question with a verse from Quran. It's part 2, Surah 2, 186. And when my servants ask you about me, then surely I am near. I answer the prayer of the supplicant when he prays to me. So let them respond to my call and believe that trust in me, so that they may be guided to spiritual and intellectual excellence and right contact. So this is my favorite verse from the Quran because it tells me that God is near. God is always accessible. Whenever I pray to Him, He hears me, He sees me anytime, and He replies to my prayers. So knowing that provides me it's great to know that God is near me and knows my prayers and knows me better than myself. And that's a great way to understand things in the world too. And I'm always hopeful. I'm always happy. Of course, there are times that, you lost your hope, but this verse provides me that I have God with me that answers my prayers. And there was also a question in the chat box about how we answered the question that I'm fine my kids going to public school. Yes, I am fine for them to have friends from different backgrounds. The question was asking, are you fine them having a Jewish friend? Yes, I'm fine. I mean, we live in United States. We need to get to know each other. We need to know our similarities, differences, because without mutual understanding, there's a fear. If we don't understand, if we don't know each other, then people fear from it. Yes, there is a fear. That's why I want my kids to learn other cultures, religions, no matter what they, I just don't ask who their friends really is. Of course, I'm open-minded. I'm fine for them to have Jewish friends, Christian friends, any friends from different backgrounds. And because I am living in this perspective too. So I have lots of Christian friends, Jewish friends, as long as Muslim friends too. So I guess that's the key point, because Islam doesn't tell me to stay away from Jews. Islam doesn't tell me stay away from Christians. So that's another great part for me about Islam.
Yeah. just to echo everyone, connection is really, for me, it's the way I grew up, is how we connected in the community that I grew up in, and it's really important to me.
Yeah, and I
I
want to
was
address
muted.
this.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I just wanted to also kind of add on to what Muala was speaking about when it comes to like, no, we don't care about whether or not the kids are Jewish. Are they good? That's all I care about. Is your child good? That's how you can play with my kid. Other than that, my daughter, she took Yiddish class. She already learned about Jewish history and what they had to deal with. And yeah, she chose to take that class because, she's thinking about becoming an attorney. And how do you advocate for people if you don't know people? Can't advocate for them if you don't know them. So she's 12, but that's what we try to teach.
All right. Well, we have been going for about an hour and 15 minutes. So I just want to thank everyone again for taking the time to be with us tonight. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you sharing all of your thoughts and feelings about some of these questions that people have. And we hope to see you guys around again. And I know that I was like, I didn't even know I could ask to go to a mosque. So I think that that's exciting.
Please
I
do.
had a friend named Becky in high school, and she came all the time. She came every week with us.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then Chuck, what's going on, Chuck?
Oh, no, I just want to let everybody know, we'll have the video of this session up in a couple of days, so you can share it with your friends and go over the parts you missed if you missed any. I'm sure everybody was had rapt attention, so I'm sure that's not the case. But it should be ready in 2 days.
Perfect. And I know I did see that Chuck threw up a link in the chat for people to take a quick survey. It's like a 1-question deal for people who are attending. So if you haven't clicked on that chat button, you can click on that. And like I said, it's just 1 question. And that's going to do it for us. We thank everyone. And go ahead again. Chuck's back again.
Oh, no, it's more than that survey is more than 1 question, but it shouldn't take you more than a couple minutes.
Oh, okay. That's a different survey. Sorry.
It's a different survey. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone. And I will be in touch with the panelists to thank you guys again and go over a couple things. And everybody have a wonderful night. Remember that, what was it? Islam means peace. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. I think that's great. That's a great thing to end on. Have a wonderful night. Thank you all so much. See you
Thank
again.
for the invitation.
Right.
Bye.
Oh my
Nice
God.
meeting you all.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you as well.
All right. Bye, everyone.